Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Phil Fatica, and today we're talking sports. The Sports Commission, that is. I hope you've heard of this, and if you haven't, you're going to learn a great deal about what an organization this is and what it does for the Erie area. Joining me is Ron Sertz. He is the Executive Director of the Erie Sports Commission. You can see behind us the banner, and the top says Erie Gets Sports, and that's because of this gentleman right here, Ron Sertz. Ron, you got an hour and a half or 2 days, whatever you want. Erie Sports Commission is what and does what?
Well, our mission, Phil, is fairly simple. We create tourism through sports, make an economic impact through sports, and we do that by either attracting sporting events to Erie, big ones, small ones, regional ones, statewide ones, or helping people that already have sporting events or want to create sporting events, make them bigger and better from a tourism standpoint. Yeah. So we're more about who's participating from out of town and who's coming to town to witness as a patron, buy tickets to events. Because what we're trying to do is expose Erie to these people, what a great community it is, and then have them come back on their own as tourists.
You're an economic machine.
Well, we
I
think,
can say that.
Yeah.
You are. People come here and stay here and spend money here.
Yeah.
And my obvious next question is, why wasn't this done before? Why didn't somebody see the value or the light at the end of the tunnel on this?
Well, I think some of it was happening a little bit here and there, but no one ever pinpointed this area. And even when I first started looking at it, after I'd left my other sports jobs in the city, it was something that always intrigued me. And I thought, you know, your question, why isn't somebody doing this? Because opportunities were out there, and Erie was a great sports town and had the amenities to be a great host city. So when I started looking at it on my own, it wasn't very long before it became obvious to me and John Oliver at Visit Erie that this is perfect. This is a perfect fit because they're obviously the big tourism bureau trying to attract people to town for all the attractions and Presque Isle and so forth. We're just doing it through sports.
The inception started formally with you a couple of years ago?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
So you've had a real short life so far.
They literally
You've done a lot.
asked me to do the study. I was already working on it. They asked me to do the study for them, make recommendations, how it could work, how it could be measured and all that. I did that for about a year, and then they activated it and hired me. And
that's a great question. How do you, stay on that two-shot a minute while I ask this question, how do you quantify your growth? And you'll notice there's the color run, that was just not too long ago, the wrestling, the billiards tournaments, the basketball tournaments, the fishing tournaments. I mean, these are all events that all of us have heard about, and they're all directly coming out of the Sports Commission. So how do you quantify your growth? How do you measure it? What data do you use?
The thing that's good about us and our operations is everything's measurable. I know in some organizations it's like we're trying to make a difference, but how do we really know? Well, in our case, it's pretty simple. How many events have you done? How many hotel rooms have you used? What's the economic impact you've created? How many people are buying tickets? How many people are participating? So every level is measurable. So we started in 2012 was the first year we ever started initiating events, and we did 9 events and about $1.5 million. We've grown that now to this year almost 40 events and about $15 million. Wow. So we've grown every year. Even after 3 years, Phil, we were lucky enough to be recognized the difference we were making, and we were named the Sports Commission of the Year, National Sports Commission of the Year by the National Association of Sports Commissions. So that was quite an honor, and it helped people recognize Erie as a good potential host town.
Do you have a website, a phone number?
Yeah, it's eriesportscommission.com, and if you go there, everything's on there.
Everything. You just kind of almost answered. How do events find out about coming to Erie? And then what does you do to find out about events that don't always necessarily show up here? I mean, I have to say that the color run that started 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yes.
I mean, 10,000 people. Sells out in an hour and a half.
Weeks,
whatever. I mean, it was like, whoa, 10,000 people. No matter where you live, that's a big number.
And We do it in a number of ways.
Okay.
The one that's most obvious is we go face-to-face with people. So Mark Generetta, our events director, and myself, we travel across the country, get to 5, 6, 7 big events every year where the events rights holders for all of these different types of events are there for 2 or 3 days. And we meet in each one of those with 30 to 40 people pitching Erie as a host city and showing them how their event could succeed in Erie.
What makes Erie that destination for this event then? I mean, you know, we've grown up listening to Dreary, Erie, Mistake on the Lake, you know, hopefully that's gone away, because when you have 10,000 people for a color run.
Every event that comes in is driven by the facilities.
Okay.
And if you look at Erie, first of all, we have Presque Isle. So you can't have a better facility in the nation than Presque Isle for running events, for biking events, beach volleyball, triathlons. I mean, it's a perfect venue to attract those type of events. And then when you add in the Erie Insurance Arena, the Convention Center, I think until we came along, there weren't people thinking about the Convention Center as a facility for sports. But we have gymnastics events there. We have pool championships there. We have a lot of things, and we're continuing to bring more. And then you add to that Family First, the Speedway. So we have great venues, and then we've got 4 colleges here.
They're busy.
And well, they're busy at times, but now they're recognizing that we're also with our events driving people to their campuses. So through sports, they also have an opportunity to show people what Gannon or Mercyhurst or Penn State Barron or Edinburgh are, and people recognize the quality of the universities, and they come back, and maybe their kids go to school there. So we have good venues for, you know, we're never going to host the Olympics. We're not going to win the Division I bids for the basketball. But for a city our size, there are certain events, and we've always been concerned with right-sizing the events. That, okay, what's going to fit, and what can we be successful at? Because part of the key is we want you to come, but we want you to come back. We want you to bring that event back, and then bring other events besides.
Tracking that, and somewhat off of my list of questions here, tracking that, do you track the people who come from out of town as opposed to the locals? I know that it's very important that people filling those hotel motel rooms.
Oh, absolutely.
Spending dollars.
It's part of the measurement. We don't get involved with any events. We're sports people, so we love any sports that are here. But we don't get involved with the local tournaments that have 8 local teams or regional teams that just drive in. We're trying to measure the outside impact. So we look at all of that. We'll have an event like the Biggest Loser National Race Walk.
Well, let me just right there, looking back on 2015, and we're not through it yet, what are some of the events that you did hold that people would recognize? I know the Color Run, but can, off the top of your head?
Sure. We had the Stars and Stripes gymnastics event that was right down on the bayfront. That started a number of years ago, and they had 400 or 500 kids in a local gym. Now there's 1,500 kids. It's right on the waterfront, and it's growing every year. And because of the success we had with that event, then we got the Excel State Gymnastics Championships. We have the 8-ball championships, the Pennsylvania State 8-ball championships. Again, 1,500
Where do you find all those tables?
And how do you get them in there?
How do you get them in there?
Let me tell you what, I'm not the guy.
Okay, I mean, those are heavy tables.
Yeah, those are big tables. It takes them days to set up and days to break down.
And they're microscopically laser balanced, you know?
Absolutely. And then we had the Pennsylvania State Wrestling Championships. And again, 1,000 wrestlers come into town with parents and family and friends, and that's a big event. It's for a few days, and again, they're coming back now next year, and based on the success, we're already talking about the junior high Pennsylvania State Championship. So it's every time we bring one of these events in and they're successful, the word of mouth is good. Not only from that events rights holder who wants to come back, they tell other people. So now when we go, I remember the first year I went around to some of these conferences, and they didn't know who I was, and they certainly didn't know where Erie, Pennsylvania was. But now when we go, we sort of have a little cachet going, because we have this whole list of NCAA events and color runs and state championships. So the more success we have, the better it is on our resume and the better reputation we have as a host
Does
city.
the weather play, is the weather a neutral factor? Or people go, geez, I don't know if I want to drive there. They have that lake effect snow. Or does that, people, that just exaggerated?
Yeah, you know what? It's always a little bit of a factor. But we're careful when we do that. One of the other things we concentrate on, Phil, summer here in Erie, things are cooking pretty good. So people aren't looking to put more hotel rooms in there.
When I hear people say there's nothing to do, I'm going, here? What? What do you mean? There's 15 things going on between 7 and 8 o'clock.
And it helps us attract events. So, to say that there's, concerts on the bay, there's concerts on the beach, there's Splash Lagoon, there's, any number of restaurants and things. Erie's a great town. Sometimes our citizens are our worst enemy, that they don't necessarily talk about it or even recognize it because maybe they don't get to these events.
Sure.
But the thing that helps us sell is when we bring these people to town ahead of time and say, we want to show you Erie, and as soon as we get them on the waterfront, as soon as we show them, we have 4,000 hotel rooms in the city.
Right.
So we can host a lot of big events, and that's growing. And we have great hotels, we have great restaurants, and again, great entertainment. You take them out to Presque Isle, Waldemere, Tom Ridge Center. There's a lot of things to do. All the competitors love to come to town and have a great event, but they also look for things to do outside of that event. As soon as you can talk to the ladies coming to town about the tax-free shopping and the malls and the
slot machines at the casino.
The slot machines at the casino is for the guy.
And the wine tours.
And the wine tours. Yeah, Erie's a great city. I think sometimes if our own citizens could divorce themselves from some prejudice about the city and look at what other people see. Because when, I'm telling you, Phil, when we bring them to town, they're mesmerized. We bring them down on the waterfront and show them what can happen, and we take them to Presque Isle and sort of set a vision for them. It's an easy sell.
This is why they pay me the big bucks, because I'm going to ask you the really tough question here. Only the two of us. What are you bringing in next year? Or the year after?
Well, we have, and it's a good testament to the success of events we had, because we brought in the Pennsylvania State 8-Ball Championships, and we've been successful with that. And because of that, next year we're bringing the World Junior Championships to Erie. Because again, we can demonstrate. Before it was just theory. Now we can say, look, here's pictures of this event. Here's the organizer. Here's what it looks like. So I think we've got great opportunities. We're working right now. I don't think it's a secret anymore. We're working with Pittsburgh to bring in the World Junior Hockey Championships. That's a worldwide event, and we're partnering with Pittsburgh to bring that in 2018. So many of these events we're working way down the line. It's easy to say we have 40 events right now, but some of the ones, the big ones that we're working on are a couple years down the road, if we're lucky, 3 years, 4 years. But you have to start the process. Before there was no one starting the process, but at least now we're sort of putting them in on our list.
You mentioned that Presque Isle and coming here. I mean, people are amazed. First of all, there's no cost, and the beaches are guarded, and it's literally open all the time. I mean, they do close it down at night for obvious reasons. They don't want everybody falling asleep on the beach, et cetera, et cetera. But my notes here say that you hosted 29 total events at Presque Isle State Park, including the fishing events on the bay, which consistently rank in Bassmaster's annual list of top bass lakes in the country. I mean, I take it for granted. I go out there and throw a line in or two, or I fish with a trout. But I never think of it in those terms that Bassmaster goes, you're fishing at a good spot, Phil.
Yeah, and it's one of the best. It's one of the best in the country. And the more we've done, the more recognition we have. Not only that there's good fishing there, but that Erie is also a great venue for launching boats, for weigh-ins, for dinners, for hotels. That's what we pitch. I think all those fishing people know it's a great venue for bass fishing and steelhead and so forth.
Yeah.
But as we've grown the fishing events, more and more, the bigger ones are coming to us, and we're looking at national events, whether they Bassmaster, FLW, and so forth. And fishing is part of the culture of Erie. We were surrounded by water, so it's it's one of those things that people just expect that it's going to be good, but we want to let everybody know how good it is, so that they come. And again, that's what happens. We'll have an event, a fishing event, and it might be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but those competitors are coming in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to pre-fish.
Yes.
So they're here for 5-6 days, and then they discover how great it is. Now they're coming back on their own without a tournament. That's really good for us.
Yeah, it is really good. And you have the Suns organization that ensures the population of a certain fish and will not let that go away. Again, this is Ron Sertz, and Ron Sertz is the executive director of the Erie Sports Commission, and this is some of what he does and his organization does. They are a division of Visit Erie, and you're looking at the gentleman who drives an economic machine here. Young kids.
Phil, I have to say, though, I don't do that alone.
Oh no, and other people.
We have great people, and it's part of our development over the last few years.
Sure.
We added Mark Generette as an events director, so he helps me attract events, and then he's the guy in charge of those events as they come to town from a promotional standpoint, from a detail standpoint. And last year we added Emily Biddle as a communication director, and she's the one that's doing all of the publicity to make people aware of us. And just this year alone, and I know we still have a little bit of time in 2015, but she's generated over 200 stories nationally and regionally about the Sports Commission. So again, we're not an unknown entity anymore. Maybe we're a little more unknown in our own backyard, but certainly nationally and regionally and statewide, we're well known.
Now, what about the pro teams that are here? Do you have any interaction with those, the Bayhawks, the Otters?
We do. We're always close to them, and we always promote them as part of the sports culture. We're not involved with any of their events per se. We would be if, for example, the Otters wanted to bid on the Memorial Cup again, or the Seawolves wanted to get the All-Star game. We would be involved in helping them in a lot of those different areas and surrounding it with other events and volunteers and providing those services.
Erie's Erie area, big fishing, hunting area, also a lot of golfers, and it was recently announced that Scott Enterprises will be hosting the web.com tour up at Peak and Peak coming next year. Are you a part of that?
You know what, they ask us to be there, and they've asked us what role we can play. That's still developing, but Nick Scott is on our board. He was president of our board, and he knows and has been very kind in his comments about the Sports Commission, knows what we do and what we can bring to the table. And again, that's a great event. It brings a lot of people from outside. It exposes Erie an awful lot because of the television part of it. So we know the value that has, and we want to be involved in those events, and certainly at the table for not only those events, but anytime, I had mentioned before that the facilities are so important. So anytime there can be improvement in facilities or building new facilities, we like to be there and give our input into what can be done to help us bring more events to Erie.
Where have you gone in your travels with either Emily or is it Mark?
Mark.
Yeah. That you've looked at an event and you've gone, we can do that one, but we haven't done it yet.
We do it every time. We'll be in the next 6 weeks, we'll be at 3 conferences, and that's what we look for. We're maybe a little different, but I like the idea of bringing these off-the-wall kind of events. I call them participation events because they're not really competitions. A lot of them are untimed. We have in a short while, we're bringing in it's called the Insane Inflatable Race. And we have 2,000 people already, and they run a course and climb these big inflatable obstacles and crawl under them and slide down them, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's different. And we think, okay, if we're going to get people to participate and come to Erie, we got to have different things. We can always do NCAA basketball, and I was fortunate enough to be involved with the NCAA Women's Hockey Championship.
Oh, yeah.
But I think those are the big ones, but we can do big ones that are just fun events as well.
Again, it's called the
Insane Inflatable Race.
And you have 2,000 people signed up for that already?
Yeah, it's
scheduled.
It's actually in a couple weeks.
Really?
And
from when we're taping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you in it?
I am not in it, and I won't be in it.
Is Emily?
But I'll be out there.
Emily's sitting behind the camera, the woman that coordinates all your communications.
Yeah.
Is she in it?
I keep trying to tell her she should be in it because I want to see her go down the slide, but I'm not sure she's going to do that.
Oh.
But you know what? We're actually on those days so tied up with. We help with registration. You ask about statistics. Usually, the Sports Commission is providing people at registrations because we're trying to get. If you're a participant, we're trying to figure out how many days you're in town, where did you stay, what did you do, you know, so we're there trying to measure all of that. So afterwards, we do all the metrics ahead of time before we even talk to an event. We do a lot of research, background, and so forth. But then afterwards, we measure it and say, hey, did it deliver what we want, and do we want it to come back?
Have you ever said to yourself and to the group, you know, this one didn't really quite, maybe we had to let that one rest for a year or two?
We have, and you know, and some of them are a surprise. I'll give you a specific. We had a triathlon. It was called Life's a Beach Triathlon, and the concept was really great. You know, it wasn't a normal tough triathlon. It was, you could ride fat tire bikes, and you could wear floaties to go swimming, and you know, everything was shorter and more fun. Obstacles.
You could do that.
I'd still be running. But we did it. We pitched him like, hey, we can make this grow in Erie. We put a lot behind it. It had a couple hundred participants, and then they came back, and it was the same thing. It was sort of flat. And it wasn't, because they were based in Florida, it wasn't economically feasible for them to come back again and maybe get the same number.
Yeah.
So together we decided, you know what, use your other venues. We'll see if at some point down the road it makes more sense. And they loved it in Erie, so it had nothing to do with Erie. It just, they weren't drawing the numbers. Because I said to them, I think it's probably still intimidating for people to think they'd participate in a triathlon. If it was called a fun-athlon or something, you know, so there's the branding part of it. But, you know, they were great people. It was a great event. But at the end of the day, it was like, okay, we can put something else on that weekend that can draw a lot more people.
What's the one that's out there that you haven't got yet, but you want?
Well, I think that World Juniors is one. If you would ask me that a couple years ago, I probably would have said the color run. I'm not sure we could get the color run.
How did that take off? I mean, I don't mean to come back to it, but I mean, we're talking huge numbers of people here with children walking, getting sprayed with, well, people have seen it on television. What is the appeal of that?
Well, there's a couple things. We got involved because I wasn't smart enough to think we could do the color run. So I was looking at alternate events. They have smaller events, other companies that might do 2,000, 3,000. I thought that was a good fit for Erie. But as soon as we started working with them, the color run came along, and they heard about Erie, they heard about a sports commission, and they approached us and said, we can do that. We don't know how well it would go. We might do 5,000 or 6,000, which to me was double what we had wanted to do. But again, we had 10,000 people within weeks of opening that up, and again, repeated that this year, and it looks like we're hopefully going to do it again next year. And at some point, I think in all of those events, the bloom comes off the rose, like a lot of these mud runs and so forth. You know, they're really popular right now, but eventually something new will come along. And that's what we're trying to do as well, is stay on top of the, okay, what's new and what's fresh and what's cool.
I think TV to some degree has driven this. You get the American Ninja Warrior, the people jumping and climbing and holding on their fingertips, and Survivor.
Yeah, you can do that.
Oh yeah, I did that before I came here. And I think that's driven the young people like Emily to say, God, that'd be fun to do. Why don't they do that in Erie? Well, you're doing that in Erie, and congratulations.
Yeah, and we're trying to, I always use this as an example, we're doing everything from serious half marathons to the Pennsylvania State Yo-Yo Championships.
Hey,
and
I can still do that. I can make that baby sleep and walk the dog.
And that kind of unique diversity, I think, is fun.
Sure.
Again, not everyone goes down to see it, but they know it's happening.
Absolutely.
And certainly the TV stations and the newspaper cover it all. And again, in our city, what makes it so different is I think the news media is so good to our organization and events like these, that they publicize them and promote them, and then these people that come to town say, wow, look at this. I mean, my event doesn't get this kind of exposure in some of these other cities. So we're a right-sized city for that kind of collateral that they like.
Yeah, I think you said it earlier. It just adds to the cachet of Erie. It doesn't matter if there's 10,000 or 2,000. It's still that just keeps adding on that that image that we have. Got about a minute left. What do you want to tell the folks?
If you have a sporting event, or you hear of one, or you know of somewhere where we can help, get a hold of us at eriesportscommission.com. We're just trying to make a difference for Erie in the sports. And I think if we can continue to grow and drive economic impact as part of Visit Erie, that's what our mission is, that's what our role is, and we want to keep getting better and better as we go along.
Oh, you have. Like this Erie Get Sports, that says it all. This is Ron Sertz, and again, Ron is the Executive Director of the Erie Sports Commission. Thanks for being with us and taking your time, and continue the good work, because it keeps getting bigger and bigger and better and better. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you at one of those sporting events, I'm sure, one of these times. Ron is going to do the, which one?
Insane Inflatable.
Insane Inflatable. Until next time, I'm Phil Fatica. Take care.
You're watching the Mill Creek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.